Good afternoon, Mets fans, and welcome to a Monday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and I do not have hand, foot, and mouth disease. We'll preface this video with that. Yes, we are Mets fans, so we are used to the strangest things happening, and boy, this weekend was certainly no different. The Mets had a rain-shortened two-game series with the Yankees, which they split. I'm going to talk about the split today, the upcoming week, and more bizarro injury news in the world of the New York Mets. If you were playing the preseason injury bingo game, and you were waiting for hand, foot, and mouth disease to strike, well, you are a winner, my friend, because Noah Syndergaard went on the disabled list after making his return on Friday night with hand, foot, and mouth disease. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. So Syndergaard's on the DL, made one start. Along with Syndergaard, Yoenis Cespedes made one start. He returned from the disabled list on Friday night and played only one game, and he will most likely be heading back to the DL as well. Cespedes' injury is calcification of the heel. Yep, he has chronic calcification problems on, I guess, both of his heels. But the remedy is surgery. The recovery time is 8 to 10 months. So, you know, it's at this point we're sort of used to it, but hearing from fans of other teams, hearing from broadcasters, hearing from various personalities in baseball, it's not just us thinking this is weird. Like, this is freaking weird. The Mets constantly being injured is becoming like industry standard now for the Mets. And honestly, if I was a free agent, I would not come here, because it's like we have just this rash of bad luck with injuries. Todd Frazier was never hurt in his entire career, his entire 9-year Major League career. He spent a grand total of 0 days on the disabled list, made 0 trips to the DL. In half a season with the Mets, he's been there twice. So anyhow, the Mets did play the Mets did play the Yankees, and they split. Syndergaard pitched okay Friday night. Cespedes contributed with a home run Friday night. Probably the last home run we'll see him hit for the Mets in 2018, maybe ever. We'll talk about that in a second. But both guys will not be contributing this week for sure. And the hope for Syndergaard is that he'll be off the DL, missing only one start. But, you know, where have we heard that before? Interesting Subway Series. The Mets played good baseball Friday night. They got to Gonzalez, Herman, or whatever the guy's name is, the pitcher, without the benefit of a home run. They hit a lot of doubles. The Yankees' offensive attack Friday night was really weird. They hit like 12 singles and couldn't score. And, you know, I don't follow the American League. I don't follow the Yankees, but that offensive output and the inability to score any runs with that offensive output is really alarming. It shines a spotlight on one of the biggest problems with not just the Yankees, but just baseball in general, building teams to win and live and die by the home run, where you've got guys on base constantly. I mean, the Yankees had 9 hits through like 4 innings and only scored 1 run. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And again, it's not just a Yankees problem. This is a baseball problem in general. Just how reliant the entire league has become on hitting home runs and scoring that way. It's annoying, and it's not fun. You know, it's not fun to watch baseball where it's like a home run or a strikeout or a pop-up. And there's just the excitement, the pure excitement that is the natural game of baseball is going away and is being replaced by the highlight reel. And I'm paraphrasing this from Keith's book. If you've read Keith's book, which if you haven't, you're nuts. It's excellent. But Keith talks about this in his book, and he's so right. He's so spot on. And he surmises that baseball in general is happy about it because these are the things that are, the 90-second recap clips that you see on SportsCenter. And Keith makes the point. What about the double in the gap? What about the triple, which has gone the way of the dinosaurs at this point? There just aren't any triples hit in baseball. And again, it's because of the reconstruction of all of these these fields rather. There are no gaps anymore. It's like a straight line in the outfield with the fence, and there's no right and left center field gap for the most part, where guys can have the ball sneak into and get a triple out of it. That's exciting. That's fun. And it's gone. The game has changed. And again, just talking about the Yankees on Friday night, they certainly could have beaten the Mets pretty easily on Friday night based on the number of base runners they have, but they're unable to get that hit when they need it. And that's gotta be scary as a Yankees fan, to watch the team do that. I don't know if they do it all the time, but I've seen and heard it enough that I think, wow, this is really indicative of what this team is. But back to the Mets. Again, the Mets did split. Saturday's game was really weird. Matz pitched better than his final line is going to show. Matt Dendecker, who Howie and Josh kept praising on the radio as the only and the best pure center fielder that the Mets have in the system. Interestingly, he is the best probably because he's the only center fielder, because he did not look very good in the field on Saturday. He misplayed 2 or 3 balls that cost Steven Matz runs, and they're not errors, they're hits. The Gregorius triple was a ball that Dendecker made a diving effort for and wasn't able to come up with it, and went to the wall, scored a run. These are things that affect the pitcher's line and really shouldn't. It's really an unfair stat, but lots of things about pitching is unfair. Speaking of unfair things about pitching, the Mets opened up the trade deadline chatter and the hot stove chatter and all that stuff by dealing Jeurys Familia to the Oakland A's for 2 prospects. And we're not talking 2 top prospects. We're talking the organization's 17th best prospect. And the names escape me now for some reason, but I remember that he was the third baseman was their 17th best prospect. And the pitcher, the relief pitcher, is not ranked on the prospect depth chart for the A's. The justification coming out of the Mets, and this is coming from John Ricco, was that they jumped on this trade because it gave them 2 players that the scouting department was high on. And that answer made me wonder what the scouting department was high on. The Mets traded away one of the best closers over the last couple of years in baseball. And they traded him to a contending team. The A's are a much better team, as they tend to be every year, than anyone gave them credit to be. But the bottom line with it is that I don't know why the Mets didn't try to create some sort of a bidding war. I keep looking to Houston, who has sent down their closer, Ken Giles. He's in AAA now. Why didn't the Mets engage with the Astros? Maybe they did. We don't know whether that happened or whether it didn't happen. But why not wait? Why not give it some time? Let this marinate a little bit. See if, all right, you've got these 2 guys from Oakland. Okay, great. We like these 2 guys. These 2 guys were not high prospects. As I said, one was an unranked prospect. The other was number 17 in the A's system. It wasn't as though 12 other teams were banging on Oakland's door saying, hey, we got to have the number 17 and this unranked guy. So if these are the 2 guys that the Mets were able to get for Familia from the A's, why not start shopping at other stores and say, can you do better? We've got these 2 guys from Oakland. Can you beat it? And let some other team put a package together for Familia. It wasn't like it was July 31st and they had no choice. That's different. That circumstance is different. It plays out differently. The Mets had a choice, and right now, on paper, it does not look like the Mets played this well. Of course, prospects are a complete crapshoot. No one knows what they're going to pan out to be. But right now on paper, it looks like the Mets got beat on this trade. And as fans, we have to look forward to at least one more trade. And that's going to be Asdrubal Cabrera. He's going to be dealt off. And I would have thought that the piece that would net the Mets the most, despite his up and down season, would have been Familia. So now I'm like looking at this Cabrera potential trade, and I'm like, Jesus, they couldn't get jack shit for Familia, who actually has some value. Granted, he's going to be a free agent, but still. So is Cabrera, and Cabrera is a middle-aged middle infielder who's, let's be fair, he's having a really nice first half, but he's bound to fade down the stretch. Is he going to return that much value? I don't know. Probably not. I mean, I would think not. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see. The other names that might be traded, I think Jose Bautista is a name that could be dealt to a contending team that needs a bat off the bench. Bautista could fit that role, and he's shown that he still has the bat speed, that he still has the power that a contending team might need and might want. So Bautista's one guy. I read this morning, or late last night rather, that the Mets were looking into trading Zach Wheeler. And I don't know that there's a deal imminent for this, but I'm on the record as saying that I don't want the Mets to trade these guys. I'm looking at the Zach Wheeler trade in the same light as I looked at not bringing Daniel Murphy back. And here's how I'm putting these two things together. Zach Wheeler, after 5 years or so in the system as a highly touted elite pitching prospect, has finally, after all this time, been able to put something together with the help of Dave Island and Mickey Callaway, and now looks like he's going to fulfill the promise that he's had for the last 5 years. Why would you trade him away when it looks like it's clicking with him, when it looks like he's found something? I look at the Daniel Murphy situation very similarly, in that Kevin Long worked with Daniel Murphy as a Met in 2015 to develop this swing that turned Murphy into Babe Ruth in the playoffs. And let's be honest, the last two seasons, 2016, 2017, he was an MVP level player for the Washington Nationals, for our division rival. So we basically gave Murph the tools that he needed to succeed and then handed him over to another team. And I'm looking at Wheeler very similarly, in that we're going to do the same thing with Wheeler. Unless the return is huge, I don't want to do it. I'd rather keep Wheeler. I don't trust this current three-headed monster GM to make the right move to benefit this team long term. I would rather roll the dice with the guys that we have and we know. That's the way I'm looking at it. So the trading deadline is approaching rapidly. We're going to start hearing more and more rumors, and I'll be back here to talk about them as often as I can. This week is a little bit busy. I will be back probably tomorrow. DeGrom is going to go tonight after being rained out last night. And I want to just mention that Mike Puma had the tweet of the day yesterday when he said new rotation, DeGrom Monday, TBA, Tuesday and Wednesday. He noted that Vargas was initially slotted to be the Tuesday starter, but then he joked that TBA might be a better option than Vargas, which was funny. So I give Mike Puma some credit for some sense of humor on Twitter there. But anyway, the Mets will have DeGrom going tonight. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about tonight's game. The end of this week is going to be a little nuts, so I don't know how much time I'm going to have to get back on and talk about the close of the Padres series and the kickoff of the Pirates series. But if I can, I will. So until that time, sorry I went on long today, but I had a lot to talk about. I thank you for watching. It is greatly appreciated. If you're not already doing so, please follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. And as always, let's go Mets.